Imagine that you grew up in a cult where you lost all connection to your feelings, and how this affected your whole life so that you felt like you were living in a fog. Or imagine that you were so poor as a child that your family lived in a chicken coop or converted barn. Imagine how this might have affected your own children years later when it came to going to the dentist. Or imagine that you trained as a scientist and even starred in a rock band but loved the idea of healing. In this episode, you'll meet 3 co-authors from the book Tap Into Your Best Life who each share this real-life backstory. They will tell you how tapping changed everything. I'm Caryl Westmore, lead editor and publisher of this global Amazon bestseller, Tap Into Your Best Life. And from listening to these 3 co-authors, you'll understand why I choose the stories I do in my co-author books to give hope and inspiration to listeners like you. Welcome co-authors from the book Tap Into Your Best Life, now a global bestseller, and it's exciting to hear what each has to say about their riveting chapter in the book. So we're going to start with Lachman. Welcome, Lou. An embodied freedom coach, blending Buddhist psychology with energy-based tools such as EFT, tapping, to help clients rebuild inner trust and step into their personal vision. I think you're known for your empathy and awareness, which you say arise from your own lived journey of embodiment and healing. What was the impetus that got you to write your chapter about really an interesting childhood?
I was raised in a cult. What I noticed was because of that history and because of not having much connection or time with my family, I was quite disconnected. And then I would be overwhelmed, and then I'd be disconnected, and then I'd be overwhelmed. And tapping was the thing that really helped me with that. I had done years of therapy. It really hadn't made the difference that it made.
You tell us you were disconnected, but you called it a fog. And your chapter, Coming Home to Myself, My Path to Embodiment and Peace. You've talked about being disconnected, but was that like a fog? Chapter, you say it originated as a coping mechanism in what you didn't realize was quite an abusive, neglectful childhood. The thing that really helped you break free was tapping. What was the difference, do you think?
I think the difference was the body connection. Even though I had an embodied psychotherapy training, it didn't have a bridge into my body that calmed down my body. And that was what tapping brought me. And it was really vital. I needed a way to connect with and calm my body in order to step into my life. That's just what's true.
What do you call embodiment as opposed to what we do with EFT? Tapping into
Well,
the
it's
body.
different because in the embodied psychotherapy training I was paying attention to the body and I was paying attention to what was happening in the body, but I didn't have a way to calm it. And because of that, I actually couldn't hear what was going on inside because of that fog, because of that need to be disconnected, fractured. There was a fragmented field in order to survive. And then to be able to address that fractured field and come into wholeness, personally, I needed an energy therapy that brought together my energy system because it calmed me down. And without that calm, my system didn't trust the body, didn't trust the feelings.
So what does your best life look like now? And how many years since you discovered EFT, how has your life developed better and better?
I've been a psychotherapist for 30 years. I've been an energy therapist for 25 years. And I would say that it's just allowed me to continue to develop. So there's something that I often say to both clients and friends, that when you have an energy therapy that works, then you can go into anything. So you can heal anything and address anything that comes up. And that makes me feel really confident on my personal spiritual journey in life because I can address things that arise. So it just keeps getting lighter and easier and lighter and easier.
Well, what does that mean to you to actually tell your story in the book and then realize that there's a world of thousands, maybe millions who are going to read it?
It's really important to me because actually my visibility and my journey allows me to reach people who need this message. And if I don't tell the story, they don't get to hear it. And therefore, they're not going to connect with me and do this work.
If there was one thing you would like listeners who are hearing your story take away, what might it be?
That there are ways to settle your body. And once you find them, you have power. It allows you to feel empowered because you can calm down your system. So your emotions are no longer controlling your life.
How can people get hold of you? You work with people all over the world. What is one website where they can get hold of you?
I'm developing a new website at the moment, so I'd suggest that one. It's lulachman.com.
Okay, spelled
Lulachman.
Thank you very much. It's been
Thank you so much, Caryl.
Our next co-author today is Lamont. She's a master trainer for EFT International and EFT Matrix Reimprinting Academy, teaching, mentoring, and certifying therapists and coaches worldwide. Laurie is passionate about connecting people with their own innate wisdom, and she often is referred to as the free-range mentor. So before we go further than that, Laurie, tell us more what you mean by free-range mentor.
The joke is I was raised in a chicken, and then years and years later, one of my mentees talking about me casually to another one said, "She's a free-range mentor. She's not like all the other mentors." And I thought that was funny because I was actually raised in a chicken coop for my first 11 years of my life. But it would house thousands of chickens and then human. It didn't have insulation or heat or doors or all the normal things that you would expect in a house. We did not have.
And your chapter, which focuses on seemingly a dental trauma, actually had its roots in the fact that your parents didn't have medical and dental insurance. Tell us your story.
I felt so much rage every time. I like to consider myself a fairly calm and enlightened. No, every time I went to the dentist, I felt so much rage. The man there pushed every one of my buttons. So I tapped on it before I was even trained in tapping. And that's what my whole chapter is about. The 12 minutes of sitting in a parking lot tapping completely changed how my children, one daughter mainly, but all of my children reacted by going to the dentist. And so that's it.
Yeah, so before that tapping, and slowly you can tell us what the realizations were. The one daughter who had this dental phobia, how did she
It was so bad that we would have to give her gas, and I didn't even like to give her Tylenol. And I was giving her gas at the dentist, and every time we went there, it was like so many issues in the mouth. And then after I'd tapped for 12 minutes in my car, a few days later, I brought her to the dentist, and she had zero issues. She allowed the dentist to fill a cavity. She never had a problem with the dentist again after that, actually.
Did you actually come up with a connection between how that could have happened? Because I know you say in your chapter that as you tapped you began to see some good aspects about this hated dentist. You began to see that he had been kind to you at times. Yeah. And at that point, I don't know if you connected it with your mother and the actual triggering incident.
I didn't realize it. I didn't understand because I loved going to the dentist as a child. But when my mom would write that check for all of us, when I finally got trained and I learned to go back into the childhood stuff, I went in there. I'm like, what do you mean? Childhood problems with the dentist? Oh, but I do. When my mom was writing the check, they feel her stress. And that would mean that we probably wouldn't be able to buy groceries that week or God knows what else because we didn't have it. We were very poor. And so I stored it away in my brain that paying for poor children at the dentist is really dangerous. But it's funny because when I did go back in doing Matrix and addressing that scene, shortly after that, the man who ran the dentist office sold it. He sold the whole practice. It was really interesting on a collective perspective. It was the full circle. So doing the Matrix, going in there and addressing the scene. And that was when I was able to really figure out that it was my mom's problem writing the check. It actually had nothing to do with that.
And I think if you could tell the listeners one thing, I think you particularly want to tell parents.
It's such a double-edged sword because it comes acknowledging that there may or may not be some parent guilt. Well, but also when we can change, when we can address how we feel and how we're showing up, we have this immediate ripple effect on the people around us. And I'm not going to lie, I had so much mom guilt afterwards because I realized how my unfinished stuff was really impacting my children. Very humbling when you realize it. But at the same time, it can be very empowering.
Tell us about your best life today.
It's really being very present and not allowing all of the childhood programming to continue to run the show now. Everything is very much empowerment focused in our world and very much focused on our own innate wisdom, really, what it all comes down to.
So I know that you've mentioned the word empowerment. Tell us the name of your website.
That it would be empowermenteft.com. Able to change, yes, our nervous system, yes, our emotions, but also our energy and also our frequency and our vibration. And I think that's the bigger part that really rippled out that everyone else can be impacted by.
That's fantastic. And that's what the book is about. It's to get that message across and hopefully for people to know that they can connect with someone like you, Laurie. Our next co-author, Tania A. Prince, originally studied to be a scientist, one of the original EFT founding masters, an accredited EFT International Master Trainer of Trainers, hypnopsychotherapist, NLP trainer, and the creator of a new and exciting method that's called Mindfulness-Based Inner Repatterning. Welcome, Tania, and tell us more about how EFT tapping and your chapter in the book relates to your technique.
All right. So thank you, Caryl, for inviting me on here. When I spoke with you about coming as one of the authors for this book, I was really excited. But then I got to think, all right, I have a science background as well. When I'm looking at something like that and I'm thinking, writing something in the book, I'm thinking to myself, I've got to prove that this, whatever you do, has longevity. The story that I shared was a client who came to me, and I think it was 20 years. She came to me 20 years ago. She was having panic attacks. I didn't even think about it at the time, but she managed to get to my clinic. When I was thinking about it, I was thinking, how brave was that she drove there? And I did some work with her, and we got some pretty amazing results. And I worked with various things that had happened for her. The panic cleared 100%. In fact, I shared it in the book that she went up Go Ape. Now, Go Ape is an aerial assault course. I have been up Go Ape, and it is incredibly high. In fact, when I went up Go Ape, I got to tap more. So when Go Ape as well, my husband came up as well, and he didn't tap before he went up. Then he came off with white knuckles. A client of mine went up there and sent me pictures from Go Ape, which is showing how much she was so much more calm in her life in such a fantastic way. And I had realized all the areas that really truly was holding her back from. She ended up flying internationally after that. She was able to go on trains. She went out to the city centre and went to music concerts. So I knew all of this about her. So years later, I had this idea for a therapy technique. And so I have always this idea in my mind, and I was working with some very complex clients at the time. And I'm thinking to myself, I wonder if there's a really good way to work with complex clients. I went over to Paris because my family took me there for my birthday. And I was practicing my technique in the catacombs underneath Paris. If anyone knows about the catacombs, there's all skeletons down there. So I was walking down the corridor, I was thinking, that don't sense anyone being here. Anyway, so I created this technique, and I thought, you have an idea for a technique, but do you know it works? Are you working on yourself, but do you know it works? So I phoned up several of my students and I said, look, I got this idea for a technique, but I really need to have it tested. And so she was one of the people who volunteered. I said to her, what problem do you have? And she literally said, whenever I present, I feel like the little girl. Now, she was a very confident EFT tapper, but it was something eluding her with this. And I thought that was quite fascinating. So I said, should we just do a session right now on the phone? And she said, all right, then. And I got her to tap on the thymus because the technique only uses one tapping point. What it does very beautifully, this technique, is it switches us out of a stress response into the state, we call it the safe state, but it's a state in which the body enters repair and regeneration. So what we do is, if you're in a stress response, often you go into a tactile vision state. And when you relax, the same vision state that you look when you go to the beach and just chill out, your whole vision expands out. Therefore, your eyes can act as an on-off switch. And what we did within that session, I helped her switch into the safe state, brought her awareness to the problem that she had. And she's tapping, and I asked her to put her awareness on how she knew she had the problem, which of course was the sense she had this younger part of her. And as she brought her awareness on it, we did it in a mindful way without any judgment of that part. I got her to breathe in and breathe out and have a sense of putting that part outside of her. then I just say, without any judgment of the younger self, just allow it to be. And I said, what are you now experiencing within yourself? And this is what was so fascinating. She said, oh, I feel so sorry for that younger self. And from her perspective, she didn't realize that's also part of the problem, creating an emotional connection to the problem. So I said, notice how you're aware of that. And I said, and breathe that out as well.
Yes.
And she started, and it cleared like that. She had the most profound experience. It's like the whole room became 3D for her. And everything brightened up. We finished the session shortly after that. And she was feeling fabulous. The next week, she did a presentation. The thing about this lady here is she's fantastic, lovely, charismatic character. But she was getting triggered by something, which was causing her to feel like the younger self at the point when that problem had started. So she did the presentation the next week, and she was able to be her natural, charismatic self on that stage, and a reflection in a really good way. So the technique, Mindfulness-Based Inner Repatterning, we often call MBIR. I'm very happy with it. When you invited me on the book, I said, look, I'm going to be writing this chapter and do the origin story on this book. And I said, after that, I intend to promote it. Because people have been asking me for years. I train people in it, by the way.
So you looked back on the origin story and realized over the years how effective it's been. You have now come to a new launching point for it, have you?
Yes, people were really asking me. And I always saw the book as like a new kind of really a launch off, because we're in a very different point in time now. There's an AI out there which makes a lot of things that were not achievable before achievable. I love doing that. I like working with people. I love training. What I do not like is doing the websites. All of that kind of the minutiae.
Yes.
And ChatGPT makes that a lot easier. But going back to what I said about these sessions, I put the transcripts of the sessions into ChatGPT and I got it to analyze it. And it came up with such brilliant stuff. It says, you're coming in from a very different angle. You're working with systems.
That's great. Where do you see this going, Tania?
I am writing a book, and I'm really excited about that as well. And then in the last week, I've created the international website for the process when it's done a certain way. So it's a very lovely technique and doesn't require that you analyze problems, understand problems, or talk about the past, basically. From that perspective, it comes in from a very different angle, which is exciting. Basically, I see it as rebooting the system.
Yes.
The button reboot, yeah, there's a way to do it. Because really, what we're doing is supporting your body's natural healing mechanisms. We have to switch out of a stress response and put ourselves into the repair and regeneration state, then into a place of safety. And then the body starts working on itself. I've worked with thousands of people, primarily with the NLP EFT version, because NLP, Gary Craig himself, he trained in NLP. So you see the markings of NLP right through the EFT stuff. Been training people, I think it's for 26 years now. I reckon I've done about 150 training courses. What I would say about myself is I've always followed the path that my gut has said. Yeah, I feel the guidance in there. I've always gone on my own intuition.
If there was one thing you would like our listeners to take away from this podcast episode and the story and tap into your best life, what would it be?
I would say that no matter what's happening to you in life, there's always something you can do to really help yourself. And I think the tap-in therapies, the techniques, these energy therapies are stunningly powerful. They literally can transform your life, even if initially you think nothing can help you. I've seen many people who've come to me and said, nothing's going to work. And then next you see something's right for them. But wherever you are in life, I would say, read this book, read the stories, and I think it will enthuse you and motivate you to do something to help improve where you are.
Oh, that's great. And in fact, if people are enthused to work with you, what would the easiest link to your new website?
Everything's at my website, which would be www.Tania, which is Tania, and another A, Prince, PRINCE.com. TaniaAPrince.com. I would like to say that participating with you on this project has been pretty amazing because there was just really clear guidance. And you set the deadlines, you kept everything on track. And not only that, but you put tremendous effort into making sure that this became a bestseller. It's like you were a strategist, but it was amazing how fast you literally propelled that project. So I was really impressed.
Read the stories of these amazing women and other co-authors, just as fascinating, in Tap Into Your Best Life, available from Amazon worldwide. And until next time, keep tapping and changing your life one tap at a time.